So I had the intention of creating this video around pushing this 3060 Ti right here to its limit, but it didn't go exactly as I planned. This is a competitive esports game on a $40 processor, guys. Look at how well this is running. And then this, that was a hard lag, and that should not have existed. And then this is just way too good looking to be on a cheap processor. Hold on, I should probably tell you what I actually intended to do. See, I wanted to push this 3060 Ti to its very limits, but first I had to Google it because I didn't actually know how to do that. So I typed in how to push GPU to the limit. Great English, right? Anyway, here's what came up. Use overclocking software like MSI Afterburner. Good, we can do that. Maximize the power limit or adjust the power limit. I didn't feel comfortable with that, and let me explain real quick. See, I'm a channel that's kind of built around using budget, old hardware, and I would feel really uncomfortable if I were to recommend or do something that people tried to replicate that ruined their hard-earned products. I mean, if you went out and bought a 3080, or in this case a 3060 Ti, and saw some doofus like me on the internet do something special that gave it more improvement and performance, and then you replicated it and it ruined your card, I would feel really guilty. So we're gonna avoid the ones like that. Optimize fan curves, that feels pretty reasonable. I probably won't set fan curves, but I will, increase the speed of the fan if need to so that it can help regulate the temperature a little better. The second thing that came up were a lot of power management settings. And to be honest, this again falls back into, I don't want to be responsible for damaging your hardware or having you replicate something that's just not always going to work properly. So we're gonna get rid of this one and not try it. The third one is to maximize the in-game load. So I've actually done this test before, and I'll tell you the CPUs and all that here in a second, but I ran all of them in 1080p, and this says go to a higher resolution. That seems simple enough. Second up is max all the settings in the game. So we're gonna crank everything up as high as we can possibly do it. And then also disabling VSync, done. Number 4 here is hardware considerations, and this is where things get a little interesting because what this tells me to do and what I experienced may not actually be the same. See, this is saying make sure that your hardware is better so that your GPU is better, essentially, right? I'm not so sure that this is gonna end up being the case though, but we'll try it. So I'm taking the advice of the internet here, and I'm going to test this 3060 Ti on 3 different CPUs. Our first one is the Ryzen 5 2600. That was a really good turning there, David. The second one is actually going to be this monstrosity here. Let me make sure I don't jungle up all your ears. I meant to say jumble, but it is what it is. This is a Ryzen 5 5500. I know I'm far away from the mic, but you guys can live with it. And lastly, we have our Intel Core Ultra 250KF, which is this back here. Now, according, again, to what it said just on that last Google search, the better the hardware, the 3060 Ti should perform better, right? The second thing we're gonna be doing is instead of running in 1080p, we're actually gonna run on this 1440p monitor behind me because apparently that's supposed to put more onto the graphics card. So we started on Crimson Desert on the 2600. Again, everything is all the way maxed out on this. And I gotta be honest with you guys, this looks so good. It performed so amazingly. I mean, just look at this. Me lifting that thing up with whatever this guy's name is, Kenneth or something, I don't remember. It looked good. And then there was a long time where I was a pretty big doofus and I ran around with a sword trying to figure out what in the world I was supposed to do. But I'm pretty good at holding this sword up straight, if I can say so. As a father of 2, trying to run a business and start a YouTube, I had to cheat and look up how to get through this next part, so I went ahead and went to Google. And eventually, we got through it. For Crimson Desert on the 2600, we had an average frame rate of 44 and a low of 31, so I really didn't have to implement any of those things because it ran super smooth. In PUBG on the 2600, we found ourselves out of the plane and landing right next to this guy, so I had to naturally go ahead and grab a gun, look a little around, and then I decided it's probably best to let him know what's up with a quick no-scope, right? But seriously, you guys, look how good this looks on a 2600. Now this one's good, you guys. How do you catch a unique rabbit? You sneak up on it. It's terrible, right? But for real, bots are the reason that this game probably died. I'm not sure, who knows. On PUBG on the 2600, we had an average of 112 frames per second and a 1% low of 57. Again, I really didn't have to enable or change anything to prevent any kind of stuttering or freezing. It already felt like we were getting the most out of this GPU. So let's just take a second to recap what we've seen here so far. That's a Ryzen 5 2600, like $40 to $60, 60 brand new, 40 on the used market. You could literally build that with this 3060 Ti for probably like a $600 PC. You could be playing Crimson Desert with that performance for like 600 bucks. That's crazy. Anyway, onto the 5500. Let's check out Crimson Desert. So that was a really good experience too. Again, another really cheap processor that you can find new for like $80 to $100. And on Facebook Marketplace, it's like $55, at least where I'm at. So this looks amazing for such a cheap option. And on Crimson Desert, we had an average frame rate of 42 and a 1% low of 29, so just under 30. Again, I really didn't have to implement any of those things we looked at earlier to feel like we were pushing the GPU to the limit. Pretty much the whole time it was at 100%. And on the 5500 for PUBG, we landed, we shot one person, felt like we were getting some action, and then we did some running, and some more running, and some more running, and then guess what? We got to look around while we were running. So, not a lot happened there. But again, look at how good this looks. And you could make the argument here, because I'm not at 100% GPU utilization, that I probably could have, should have maybe turned the fans up a little higher so that the GPU was cooler. Perhaps we would have gotten better performance and pushed the GPU a little bit harder. But I mean, sitting at 80 to 95-ish, whatever it is still pretty good. And on PUBG, we averaged 114 FPS with a 1% low of 75. Those are really, really, really good numbers. So I didn't really feel like I needed to implement anything else. Now see, this is where it gets interesting, because I ran this to find out how far I could push the GPU, but it's led me to believe that perhaps there's a difference, whether it's between AMD and Intel, or if there's something that happened whenever you got overhead from a better CPU. I don't know what it is, and I haven't done enough research to understand, so maybe you guys will leave something in the comments here. But whenever I got onto the Intel Core Ultra 250KF Plus, I actually had some stuttering. So I will make this argument every time. I think that the higher the processor is, the graphics will look better. And I think that argument can be made here if we're looking at Crimson Desert, that it looks amazing. I really do think that it looks better than it did on the other two. The weird thing is though, the FPS is almost identical, and we're gonna get to that at the end where we evaluate and show all those things. But I want you to take a look at this moment right here. Did you guys see that? That was a stutter. That was a hard freeze on a processor that's like $200 that I've ran that competed and beat the Ryzen 5 9600X. And it stuttered. And a $40 processor and an $80 processor, whatever you want to call them, never did that in the same exact scene. So on Crimson Desert and the 250KF Plus, we got an average frame rate of 40 and a 1% low of 29. Again, we're gonna look at all this later because there's gonna be something that we're gonna see that is a little weird. You guys remember how I did some impressive things earlier on PUBG? Well, watch this one. I basically just shot everywhere but this person and eventually got them. And in this next part, I found someone that had requested Amazon delivery but accidentally left without their package. So I decided it was probably a good idea to go ahead and throw it over to them. Get it? I'm not very funny, I know. Now, if you guys have ever tried to play like competitive FPS shooters like PUBG or Fortnite or Call of Duty, or I don't know what else is out there. I'm blanking on the rest of them. If you don't play with headphones and you try to use like a speaker like this back here, the directional sound throws you off really bad. So this next part, someone threw a flashbang grenade, which basically is like a concussion grenade. You can't hear, you're not supposed to be able to see. And it wasn't close enough that I couldn't see, but it didn't throw off my direction of audio anyway because I couldn't tell. So this person just started shooting at me, and then I had to quickly react and figure out where they were. So just kind of a cool moment. And on PUBG and the 250kf Plus, we had an average of 110 FPS with a 1% low of 71, which were really solid numbers. And I don't really ever remember seeing any like stutter or freezing there. But again, we're gonna get to the actual numbers of all of the games and all of the CPUs with the 3060 Ti, because I think this is where it gets interesting and where I don't know if I stumbled upon something, if I'm just not aware or smart enough to know that this was going to happen, but I didn't expect it to. So let's go ahead and take a look at the chart of all of the average FPSs of the CPUs and all of the 1% lows of the CPUs. We've got them arranged from left to right going 2600, 5500, 250kf Plus. Remember how I said something was weird earlier? Take a look at Crimson Desert's average FPS. On the 2600, we're at 44 FPS. On the 5500, we go down to 42. And the 250kf Plus, we go down to 40. Does that make sense to you guys? The 250kf Plus is literally 5 times more expensive. And we're running Ultra or Cinematic or whatever, I think it's Cinematic, on a 1440p monitor and getting less out of a 250kf Plus. What? And then take a look at the 1% lows as well. The 2600 wins here as well, 31, 29, and 29. What is that? Someone explain to me, because I didn't do enough research on this, why that is happening. And PUBG, here's where things also are weird. Take a look at the average FPS. Our 2600 was at 112, our 5500 was at 114, and our 250kf Plus is at 110. Again, what the heck? 1% lows, same story, you guys. What is going on here? 57, 75, and 71. So our 5500 seemed to perform the best in PUBG. Again, I tested the Ryzen 5 5500 and the 3060 Ti on 1080p like a month or two ago, and it was stuttering and pretty bad at times. So I don't get this. So I don't know, if I stumbled across something that I should know that maybe other PC builder gamer people are aware of, but it didn't make sense to me. Maybe you guys can explain it, but I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget, we are giving this PC away on June 15th. If you're too late for this PC, there will be another giveaway after that. So check out my newsletter. I'll have it linked in the description below. It will also update you of the upcoming content on this channel. So a cool way to give your input on what you would like to see coming out of this channel, whether it's specific games, you can request certain graphics cards, all that kind of stuff. I'll catch you guys in the next video.